Greetings, Internet world. You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It's Friday, August 12th, and that means that Kasabian has returned to us with a new record. It's entitled The Alchemist, Euphoria. This is the band's 7th studio album, and their follow-up to 2017's For Crying Out Loud. And this will be the band's first studio album without lead singer Tom Meehan. And frankly, good riddance. His actions, deplorable. And it's not even worth getting into specifics about, but it needs to be mentioned because it's ultimately what is driving this record. And I really admire the way that Serge and the rest of this band handled this situation as a whole and chose to move the band into the future. I'm really excited for Kasabian. I'm excited for more music in the future, to go check these guys out live. This is ultimately a good move, and I'm very pleased for this band. Starting off with Tom, though, this is a situation where I think if you live long enough and if you know enough people, eventually you're going to encounter this. You think you know someone, and then they go and do something that completely upends your perspective of who you thought they were. And it's a tough thing to tackle. I think it's easier as you get older, simply because, if you do it correctly, you learn to identify the type of people that you want around you, the type of atmosphere that you want to build in your life. And I know that at this point, if I see that people don't fit into that, I just am going to do any and all things to repudiate myself from them. And so I don't blame the band for wanting to repudiate themselves from Tom. But what I really admire about the way that they handled the situation is that this is still a guy that they've known for decades. It's someone who is still important to them. And they recognize that even with that love there, that he's done something where he needs to venture out now and fix that problem. He needs to come to a place and identify how he needs to move forward on his own. And being a member of a band and doing all the things that go along with being involved in a project like this are not going to allow him to do that. And so I appreciate that these guys, as opposed to cancel culture, these guys have the attitude of, we want Tom to eat. He's just no longer welcome at our table. And I think that's important. I think that's something very fundamental that a lot of people just don't understand these days. And as I said, what Tom did is inexcusable, frankly. I mean, I'm not going to go buy a ticket to go see his shows. I'm extremely disappointed with the man. But I also believe that if there are individuals that believe that he has rehabilitated himself and they want to give him a second chance, then that is their prerogative to do so. And it is none of my business. And so I want to focus now on Kasabian, because frankly, I think that, Tom, he was just the vocalist. He didn't do a whole lot of writing. And in my opinion, if you're a vocalist that isn't writing lyrics, you're kind of disposable. So I think that Serge's voice is just as solid, and this ostensibly has always been his band. So I love him completely just taking the reins on this project and deciding that, this is something that we don't want to throw the shutters on this. Kasabian needs to keep going. And if you read the interview in Apple Music, there's a great quote from him where he talks about life hands you these just big life-changing experiences all the time. And you can either stay in the harbor and be safe, or you can get on the boat. And I personally am the type that is more often than not going to get on the boat. And I'm really pumped that these guys chose to get onto the boat. This record, 12 songs, 38 minutes, covers an incredible amount of territory. There's some great hard rockin' moments. There's some moments where, you get this all out kind of electro rave feel, very much I feel the inspiration of UK drum and bass. There's some great mellow moments, some great, where it's just Serge and the piano, Serge and the guitar. There's so much going on this record, and these compositions, most of them are really roughly about 3 minutes, maybe 3.5 minutes, and the twists and the turns and the amount of material that they're able to cover, it's a lot, but it never seems like it's too much. It's not overbearing. So I'm really impressed with this record. I think this is easily one of their best efforts to date, and I think that when you listen to this record, you're going to feel that energy. You're going to feel the rebirth of this outfit. The rebirth of a band that has experienced something that's very traumatic, but has ultimately come together, and they've chosen to share that perspective of, just trying to find greener pastures instead of pining over the bad things that have happened that can't be undone anyway. And so pumped to buy a ticket for these guys. They got Robert Harvey who he's a multi-instrumentalist who played with the music. If you're not familiar with that band, check out the song Take the Long Road and Walk It. You will not regret doing that. But I'm really happy that Robert is aboard touring with them. It really makes me want to go see them now. And I love the music on this record and their sound and the energy that they bring to the table. And this record's interesting because it's kind of a mellow affair. There's definitely some moments on this album where they show some restraint, and I think that it's to the strength of the composition as well. So I'm digging that about this record also. This thing opens up with Alchemist. You get the sound of the tide rolling in, and I love that because on the back end of this thing with the song Letting Go, tide rolls in, tide rolls out, and such is life. And I really think that beginning this record that way is just like, it hit me, it just struck me so hard, knowing the situation, knowing what happened with this band. And I think that just so much thought and love and emotion went into this record. And I mean, even just that little soundbite, it gives me chills just thinking about what these guys have put together with this project. But you get this really cool lo-fi vocal and guitar to open up this song after that tide, and then this acoustic riff bases the groovy feeling of the song. You get a nice vocal element here, and then the music starts to fill out. I love the bright piano that eventually works into this song as well. This is an awesome song. There's a ton of great music going on in this composition, and it's a marvelous way to open up this record. Scripture is your second song. This song, it just kicks right in. I really like this song. It's got a great rhythm and a great vocal element to it. The bass and the piano breakdown, I really like that element of this song. And this is a song that's going to have that subtle house feel. I mean, really, there's a big electronic influence driving this record, and I'm a fan of it. Rocket Fuel is your third song. Big electro dance feel on this particular track. There's some industrial textures. Honestly, this song kind of reminds me of what Jack White was doing on Fear of the Dawn. I really dig this track and that feel that they're working with. But it's the vocal in this song. There's a moment where, you know, Serge just starts tearing right into it, and it really does feel like Rocket Fuel. It feels like the song is just getting ready to lift off, and then it hits, and you get this trap influence. I mean, it's all over the place, but in all the right ways. It really is a very cohesive composition still. Strictly old school. Your fourth track mellows things out a bit. It really comes at a nice moment. It reminds me of the Shins a little bit. I was hearing Jay Mercer, and then another band, Pinback. I know I've mentioned them before on the channel. Keith loves Pinback. Keith actually showed me Pinback. So I love that I was feeling that in this particular song. Percussion and bass dominate on this particular track. It's a good one. Alligator, your fifth song. Fuzzy guitars just drive a big, solid alt-rock groove. This is definitely one of the more rockin' moments on the record. I appreciated it for that. But it still feels dancey. It still has that influence there. And so I like the balance as well. You get your sixth song, AE Space, nice little interlude there that moves into The Wall. A moment of balladry here. Really like this. You get a little bit of intermittent piano, just a driving bass drum that's carrying this song. Great build in this track, though. I really like the way that it moves from start to finish. TUE, the Ultra View Effect, is your eighth song. Really like this track. Really cool guitars in the intro. Get these arpeggiated riffs. And then the vocal comes in, soft driving bass. Get that drum that kicks in. And then this is one of those songs, I mentioned it before, it feels like it's going to take off, but it remains restrained. And I think that given what's going on here musically, it's the right move. And I really dig the track. My favorite song on this thing, though, is your ninth track, Stargazer. And this song, I feel it just captures so much of what I love about Kasabian on this record, but just what the band has done over the years as well. It's got this playful, dancey synth. The percussion is absolutely outstanding on this song. I love the production on this song, and this record overall is outstanding. Chemicals, your 10th track, rockin', really catchy groove. This is probably the most rock and roll moment on the record. I really think that it acts as a penultimate track because your 11th song, AEC, is another interlude, and it's going to give you your final track, Letting Go, which is just a great acoustic closer. And if you read along to the lyrics, you know, I cannot say for certain, but you know, this is a song that this song sounds like it's about Tom, and it sounds like the perspective of someone who is you know, loved someone for a very long time. This person's meant a lot to them, and something has happened, and now that, you know, now they need to make that move, and it's, you know, it's ultimately always the right move. And as I said, I think as you get older, it will get a little easier, but that doesn't mean that it's not always hard. And this song, I really just like the simplicity of it. Vocal, acoustic element, really a nice way of I guess, capping what has been a pretty tumultuous experience, but ultimately has led them to this point. And I think the future is so bright for Kasabian. You get that tide that is going to close this thing out, and it's a vinyl please for sure. I'm really digging this record. I'm glad to have these guys back, and I'm glad that they chose to stay together. So I hope you enjoyed this record. I hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all things to help me blow this project up in 2022, and stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.